The times have changed, so has the delivery of news. We believe local news needs to be easily accessible. Hey, Owensboro, get with the times. Subscribe today at owensborotimes.com.
Hi, I'm Matt Castlen with Caslen Steel.
And I'm Daniel Dick with Daniel Dick State Farm.
And we're proud to partner with Owensboro Times.
It's never been more important than now to meet the candidates.
It's a vital part of our republic democracy for candidates to come forward and run for public office. I'm grateful for the individuals willing to run on the issues that are important to them and this community. Thank you for your willingness to serve the people of Owensboro.
Lastly, we want to thank you for joining us.
The town hall begins now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Owensboro Times Primary Election Town Hall. I'm Jake Boswell, and I'll be moderating the event this half hour. First, we'd like to explain the format to you if you're watching online at home or if you're watching here in person. Now, candidates drew for their spot on stage upon arrival. We did that about 5 or 10 minutes ago. Candidates were given topics ahead of time today, but as far as the specific questions, the first time you're hearing them will be the first time that these candidates hear them as well. They're each going to have 60 seconds to answer each of the questions. The order in which candidates respond will be reversed for each question. Each candidate will also be given 60 seconds to deliver a closing statement. The community's input was factored heavily into the formation of these questions, but as of during this event, nobody in the audience will be able to ask a question to the candidates. Guests here in attendance, please hold your applause until the forum for this race has ended. This is now the 5th of 9 segments today. We'll be joined by 3 candidates now for Davis County Judge Executive. Let's introduce our candidates to you, and we'll go ahead and we'll get started. We begin with Charlie Castlen, Will Mounts, and Reid Haire. Our first question based on our draw will go to you, Mr. Castlen. And based on your conversations with constituents, what do you think the public's top priorities are, whether it be economical, social, or otherwise? How would you address those issues?
I think it depends on who you speak with. I mean, there are certainly some people that their number one issue is the statue. There's other people that still are making the outer loop, which is not going to be built, the number one issue for them. There are some people that say drainage is the issue, and there are obviously jobs is paramount. And as an elected official, as one who has worked in the realm of each of these things, there certainly, when I speak to the citizens and I let them know that, you know, I'm the best choice, is because I have worked with drainage. You know, we got Highway 60 raised. We've raised Crooked Creek out of the flood zone. We relocated the people that live at Windcrest to where they no longer had to deal with flooding. And we created the Drainage Commission to help us manage the creeks across the county.
Mr. Mount, same question to you.
Jobs being a top priority to people, and one of the reasons that we don't get these opportunities in Davis County is we lack site-ready land. We see opportunities popping up in Elizabethtown, Henderson, as well as Bowling Green here recently. So we have to start investing in site-ready land here in Davis County. Also, safety is a huge priority with all the crime that has risen here lately. We have to get that under control, fill the vacancies within our sheriff's department, and give them the tools and resources necessary in order to protect and service, as well as sustainability with making sure that our planning and zoning gets on the same page with us. We continue to hear issues, and it will be broadcast probably multiple times throughout this thing about planning and zoning and how we have got to get on the same page in order to make things effective and efficient for businesses to start here and stay here. Thank you.
And Mr. Haire, based on your conversations with constituents, what do you think the public's top priorities are?
Thank you, Dave. Many of the things that have been mentioned earlier by both candidates, the agricultural issue is the drainage. They're concerned that so little has been done in the last 15 years after we initiated and put a great deal of money in with the drainage in Panther Creek and Blackford Creek. The planning and zoning issue consistently comes up from developers and from business people that want to expand or have new business opportunities here. And what troubles me is that the ones that control one that control planning and zoning is the city of Owensboro and the fiscal court. And if these problems are consistent, then it tells me that maybe the fiscal court hasn't done what they need to do to try and make sure that we are business friendly.
Mr. Haire, this time around, you'll be the first one to answer our next question. And that next question is, there's been a push for a fairness ordinance in recent years. What do you think people feel, like, why do you think people feel that is necessary? Do you agree with the fairness ordinance?
I don't agree, Dave, and the reason it doesn't have anything to do with the ordinance itself. It's the fact that government needs to be extremely careful when they begin dictating people's conduct and attitudes. I did that twice during my terms of office. One was the smoking ordinance, and the second was the property maintenance ordinance. In both of those situations, they impacted tens of thousands of people. And as a result, we had to make a decision regarding people's attitude and their conduct. With regard to the fairness ordinance, only a very small number of individuals are affected. The court or any government organization can't pass an ordinance every time a small group of people feels like or believes that they're being maligned against. That needs to be taken care of by the Public Human Relations Commission and by their access to the court system and not the unit of government, particularly local government.
What about you, Mr. Mounts? The question is, there's been a push for a fairness ordinance in recent years. Why do you think people feel it's necessary, and do you agree with it?
A lot of people think it's necessary because that's one of the reasons that we lose opportunities in Davis County. I've sat on the EDC board since 2015, and we have yet to lose one single opportunity due to the lack of a fairness ordinance. In fact, we've never even been questioned by companies looking at Davis County about a fairness ordinance. So therefore, there is no data that suggests a fairness ordinance will benefit Davis County economically. However, as Judge Exec, I will make sure that I treat everyone with respect and dignity, and everyone within my purview will maintain the same standard just as I do at my Amico Plastics. Thank you.
And Mr. Castlen, I'll ask the same question to you. There's been a push for a fairness ordinance in recent years. Why do you think people feel it's necessary, and do you agree with it?
I'm the only one up here that has a history of voting on a fairness ordinance, and my vote was no. I find it interesting. One of my fellow commissioners, George Wathen, was maligned because he gave a lengthy explanation of why he took his position. I gave no explanation, and both of us were maligned on social media. I found it interesting that my silence was bad and his being very vocal was bad. I don't think that it's a game changer for, as Will Mount said, I don't think it's something that matters from an economic standpoint. I think that we are called as individuals to be kind to everybody that we meet. And sometimes we fail, we're human beings. But there's a lot of folks that have those signs out across the community that says just be kind. And I think that's what we're called to do.
Let's move on now to our third question for each of the candidates, and we'll go with you, Mr. Caslen, to begin. A judge recently determined that the Confederate monument is the property of the fiscal court. Which specific steps will you take to carry out the decision previously made to remove it from the courthouse lawn, and where do you think it should be placed?
I'm pondering because Claude Porter said that since the appeal has not been done, that really I shouldn't speak to any question on the statue. They had 30 days to do their appeal. The only thing that I can say is our vote was to create a commission group to make a recommendation. They made recommendations. The two top recommendations were to go to the museums. The city, the museums contacted fiscal court and said they're not welcome here. And so that's why the statute still stays where it is because the two recommendations can't be implemented. So time will tell.
Mr. Mounts, same question to you. What specific steps will you take to carry out the decision that was previously made to remove it from the courthouse lawn, the statue, the Confederate monument, which a judge recently determined is the property of the fiscal court?
Well, if the Owensboro Times survey is any indication of what should be done, 60% of the population that voted in that said it should stay. So if we are supposed to follow what the people say, then it says that it stays at that current location.
Mr. Haire, I'll ask you the same question. A judge recently determined that the Confederate monument is the property of the fiscal court. What specific steps would you take to carry out the decision that's been previously made, and also where do you think it should be placed?
If the fiscal court made the determination that the statue should be removed, and then they've gone through this court legal process which says they own the statue, once the 30 days have gone, the crane should be there lifting up the statue and removing it from the courthouse lawn. The fiscal court, not my fiscal court, but that fiscal court made the decision to move it, and they should act on it. Now, they've got property out at Highway 81 with the Operations Center, huge warehouses there. That statue could be stored there until a decision is made one way or the other where to place the statue. I think the vote was to remove the statue or not from the courthouse lawn. And that vote was taken by the court, and no action has been taken. And I think the court has determined that it belongs to the fiscal court. They ought to take the action.
Let's move on to our next question. This is our fourth question now, and Mr. Haire, I'll ask you first. What steps would you take to both support local small businesses and to make sure that Davis County is a benefactor in the future of major economic development?
We often overlook the value of small business. In fact, I think it makes up a significant majority of the businesses in any community. To ensure, I remember there was once, came down from Frankfurt, an attempt to try and get everyone to use Walmart pharmacies. Walmart probably has a great pharmacy, but because the state was trying to encourage people to use Walmart, it had an adverse impact on the local pharmaceutical businesses here in town. And we resisted it. Davis County resisted it. We were one of the few counties that did. There are small things and big things that we can do to try and aid small businesses to ensure that they have an equal opportunity, an equal say in the activities going on in our community.
Mr. Mount, same question to you. What steps would you take to both support local small businesses and to make sure that Davis County is able to achieve and become a benefactor of major economic development?
Being a small business owner, I have dealt with numerous issues, and it's kind of a two-sided question. A lot of it has to do with restrictions that planning and zoning, how they interpret things, which restricts us from doing certain developments on our own property, all the way up to the fees that they associate with certain expandability. For example, we just put up a three-sided building to store our totes for our customers, and 25% of the cost to put up the building was just fees through planning and zoning. So that's going to hurt any small business. And of course, I'm a little bit bigger than most of them that are even downtown here, but if those type of percentages are still in place, it's going to hurt them and take away their capital they have to continue forward.
Mr. Caslen, same question to you.
The bottom line is the existing businesses here in Davis County, whether they're the larger ones or whether they're the small mom and pops, in my philosophy is government needs to get out of the way and let them thrive, because the bottom line is, it's just like Will said, and I've had other people say it to me, that they went in and tried to do something, and planning and zoning was right in the middle of trying to block them from doing something. And whether it's the code enforcement part that they handle and enforce, or whether it's the planning and zoning rules, the bottom line is so often they are like this on unbending when they are dealing with businesses. I had a lady who had a little bit of work done on one of her floors, shoring it up. The contractor did not use treated lumber, and it was supposed to be treated lumber because it was underneath, but they weren't going to even let her reopen her business because they didn't use treated lumber, when the only lumber that would have been treated lumber is the new few boards that were underneath there. We got them to back away from that, but just because it didn't make any sense.
We now move on to our next question, and this one has to do in a lot of ways with business and economic development as well. How would you ensure, Mr. Castlen, first to you, how would you ensure that Davis County successfully recruits and retains talent?
I think that as far as recruiting and retaining talent, the talent pool has to be brought here by the employer. I mean, many times I've asked somebody, well, what brought you to Owensboro? And the bottom line is a job, if they're not from Owensboro. Will Mounts here is a perfect example. He's not a Davis County native, but he's here because of a job. He's here because of an opportunity. And his employer sought him out, or he sought out the opportunity. And again, in my philosophy is that it's our place our role as elected officials is to get out of the way so that businesses can thrive. That's a real problem when you have all these rules that are in place. You know, Donald Trump, when he was in office, he went through and did a massive thing about cutting red tape. I believe our Governor Bevin did the same thing. That needs to happen locally as well.
Same question to you, Mr. Mounts. How would you make sure that Davis County successfully recruits and retains talent?
Continue to develop workforce development programs, such as those that we've done with GoFame. I'm a founding member of GoFame that started back in 2015. We actually recruit individuals to go into the skilled trades program, and they work for us 2 days a week. Or I'm sorry, they work for the sponsoring company 2 days a week, and they go to they go to work 3 days a week. They go to class 2 days a week. And as an employer, we pay half their tuition. So we take a lot of the roadblocks out of the way. And since we've implemented, since 2015, there's been over 100 students go through the program. In addition to that, we branched off and we did Go Careers, which is mainly supported by U.S. banks. They have put probably 60 people through the program. We branched off into CMM, and we're looking at other avenues all the time. And it gets back to those companies, if they want to keep and retain this talent, they have to be willing to put that half of tuition in, because we don't have a lack of students wanting to sign up. We have a lack of employers willing to pay that half of tuition part, and it's well worth it, I promise you. Thank you.
Mr. Haire, what about you? What would you do to ensure that Davis County recruits and retains talent?
You know, over the last couple of years with COVID, it has changed the dynamics of the workforce. So many people work out of their homes. A fellow told me recently about a couple that moved to Owensboro from New York because they were tired of the pace of New York. They came down here because of the quality of life that they have in our community. There's been a whole philosophy of placemaking. If you make your place beautiful enough with our downtown, with our symphony, is that people will come because they can work out of their homes. That is one thing government could do, is make the transportation, the infrastructure, the education system, all of these so attractive. And you see the stories of people from the San Francisco area or from the areas in California are moving east because of the communities they're going into. Welcome them into the communities. And so they go to the communities first, and then they find their jobs.
Let's move on to our next question. Mr. Haire, this one's for you as well. And do you feel that Davis County's leadership currently reflects the views and values of our community? If you do, why do you think some people disagree?
Well, I guess we are a diverse community. We have some on one side that like the status quo and want to keep the status quo, don't want any changes whatsoever. In fact, they don't want any taxes at all. Don't know how they believe the services are going to be delivered to them. Then you have others on the other side who think we need to be we need to do things to stimulate growth, because if we stay the same, you can't maintain a status quo in your family relationships, in your marriage, in your faith. and not in a community. We have to keep growing and keep moving ahead. And I remember this from being in office, there are thousands of other communities just like us. And we've got to try and find that niche, or we've got to keep moving ahead so that we can compete and we can exceed those other communities. Thank you.
Mr. Mounts, do you feel that the Davis County's leadership currently reflects the views and values of our community?
To a certain extent, a lot of our issues right now is, of course, we're continually talking about planning and zoning. And Mr. Haire had, of course, brought it up. This has been an ongoing issue since his term. And in fact, he posted in an article that was done back in 2010 that was one of the main things that he was not able to accomplish. So that is an issue that has yet to be addressed in the past 24 years. In addition to that, we have to continue to invest in site-ready land. We've continued to not do that, and we've watched opportunities leave our community. And it's a big indicator when you look at the statistics, and you may say 6 or 7 out of 10 businesses that are looking to come to Davis County can't because they don't have a place to build a building. It's kind of sad in a way that something so easy that we can obtain and make happen. Thank you.
And Mr. Castlen, do you feel the Davis County's leadership currently reflects the views and values of our community?
I think it does. But when you say, that's almost a loaded question, because we're all unique individuals. What you enjoy doing, what you find important in your life is not the same thing that I find, personally, or any of the people that are watching or any of the people that are sitting out here in the auditorium. We're all unique individuals. Generally, this community is a conservative community. We lean towards conservative views and values. That's why even back when this was and all these primaries would have been Democrat versus Republican, we were still electing largely at the state and federal level more conservative Republican representation here in Davis County. And I think that shows, and I'm a proven conservative. I'm a longtime conservative. I'm a longtime Republican, and I do believe that as a part of the leadership, I do in fact represent the views of our community.
Well, thank you guys for maintaining our time for the most part. We get to add some extra questions, which is great. People get to hear more from you guys. And we'll start with you, Mr. Castlen, with our first question that we got to kind of add into our list here. Do you support utilizing tax funds to support private development by large companies?
We do that at some level already. Fundamentally, I'm going to say the answer is no, because anytime we use tax dollars, we're picking a winner. If somebody wants to bring in a company and they're going to pull from the same labor pool that existing companies do, and so we're picking a winner, and we're rewarding somebody for being brand new to our community versus the people who may have been here and in business for 20 years already. And from a fundamental standpoint, no, I don't think tax dollars should be. From a practical standpoint, I think yes, it's really not a choice. It's something we have to do to be competitive. We set up the $1 Million Fund when we first came into office just for that purpose, and we've handed out portions of that $1 million several times.
What about you, Mr. Mounts? Do you support utilizing tax funds to support private development by large companies?
No. Again, it goes back to taking taxpayer monies and investing it into a company whenever all these other companies are continuing to do the things correctly in order for them to continue to grow and expand. They do incentives to a certain extent, but when you talk about dollars, no, I don't believe that we should necessarily give them land. We shouldn't give them any money towards the building of their buildings or anything of that nature. So, no. Thank you.
Mr. Haire, same question to you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it's the rules of the game, is that there are hundreds of other communities out there that are willing to do whatever it takes to land that business. If you want jobs, and all of us want jobs, we've talked about how much we want jobs, I can guarantee you still hear stories about Caterpillar wanting to come to this community, and because we didn't offer the incentives, they went somewhere else. So, and that has happened time and again. So if we want to be a player in the game, we want to bring good paying jobs, we have to try and put together an incentive package, and the state of Kentucky will help. We've got an economic development director who is working hard to try and bring those businesses. We have to try and put together packages that are attractive to them, and if it means we give them incentive tax breaks, by being there in the long term, we hope to recoup all those incentives back.
Well, that ends the questions portion of the forum. We're going to give each of you now 60 seconds to let the audience at home and here in the auditorium hear a closing statement. So Mr. Haire, we're going to start with your 60-second closing statement.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you for my family being here, lovely wife Brenda, and friends and families. I appreciate that. My friends, we're nearing the end of this primary campaign. And I know that many of you are relieved. No more signs in the yard or along the roadways. But I'll give you a secret. Most of the candidates will be relieved as well. It's been an arduous journey. And they've crisscrossed this county, and it is a big county. But unlike my opponents in this, my record of accomplishments backs up the qualifications I have for county judge. I am hopeful and optimistic about the future of our community. I welcome new ideas, but most of all, I believe in the citizens of Davis County. They give me the energy and the drive and the determination to work tirelessly on your behalf, and that is what I commit to do. So I ask for your vote. Vote Reid Haire for Davis County Judge Executive. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Mr. Mounts, your 60-second closing statement.
If the past is a predictor of future behavior, then we could easily see what my opponents have to offer Davis County. Red tape, higher taxes, missed opportunities, and no vision for a future. If you want the next 4 years to look like the last 24, then I'm not your candidate. I'm the only candidate that has not created his career on the backs of our tax-paying citizens. If you believe Davis County deserves growth, safety, and sustainability without higher taxes, then vote Will Mounts on May 17th in the Republican primary, and I promise you that we'll get this done together. Now is our chance to make a change that will benefit our county as well as our children's future. Let's make the most of it. God bless you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
Mr. Caslen?
Folks, I got into politics way back when I was a city commissioner. And I ran the very first time because the leadership in our community gave our hospital away. Most of you, many of the voters out here don't even know we used to have 2 hospitals. And they combined the 2. It was kind of funny because they never used the word merger of those hospitals until everybody who had ever been affiliated with the old 2 that became 1, and all of a sudden they have new leadership, and I've been in meetings where they use the word merger of the hospitals. That's what drove me to get involved, and I've been involved ever since. I've run very low budget campaigns, and the people have supported me over and over because they know that I'm a person who will listen to them, and I'll be responsive to their needs. And that's what I'm offering to you. I ask for your vote on May 17th. Thank you.
That wraps up now our 5th session of the day. Thanks to everybody who took the time to watch at home. Thank you to each of the candidates for joining us, taking time out of your day to be here. We also want to thank the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum for allowing us to use their awesome facility here for this forum. We want to thank our presenting sponsors as well, Castlen Steel and Daniel Dick, State Farm Insurance Agent, and supporting sponsor, Mudd's Furniture. We'd like to leave you with one final message, and that is to make sure that you vote in the primary. The polls have opened. I was reminded that they are closed now today, but they are open for you to vote tomorrow. Primary election day officially is May 17th. Coming up next, we'll have our first county commission forum. That'll be at 5:30, beginning with the Central County Commission. In the meantime, that concludes our forum for Davis County Judge Executive. Thank you, gentlemen.